Vowing now that the sound of this bell pervades the universal Dharma realm, bringing luminous white light to the black iron perimeter of hell, removing in an instant the suffering caused by the three evil ways. A mountain of swords is destroyed, and all sentient beings enter enlightenment together. Homage to the Master Teacher, Vairocana Buddha, compassionate Lord of the Lotus-born universe, expounding the treasured verses of the sacred golden texts contained within precious cases and written on jade scrolls. Each dust mote interpenetrates, and the universe becomes one. Every realm is united with all other worlds. The truth is contained in the 1,095,048 words of the utmost vehicle's consummate teaching. Homage to the Avatamsaka Sutra, expounded by the Buddha. To understand the Buddhas of endless time, just penetrate this phrase. Everything is created by mind alone. The mantra of shattering hell. Namuatta Shijinam Samyak Samotaguchinam Om Majana Baba Diri Dirium. Namuatta Shijinam Samyak Samotaguchinam Om Majana Baba Diri Dirium. Namuatta Shijinam Samyak Samotaguchinam Om Majana Baba Diri Dirium. Vowing now for the rest of my life not to give rise to extraneous thoughts, following only Amitabha Buddha. Thought after thought will constantly merge with the rays of his jade-like brilliance, each instant never leaving the qualities of his golden form. Holding a mala and bearing witness to the universal Dharma realm, empty space is but a thread, leaving nothing unconnected. There is nowhere that Vairocana Buddha is not present equally. Through contemplation seek Amitabha of the Western Shore. Homage to the great teaching master, Lord of the Western Shore, the Buddha, the Tathagata of infinite light. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. The land of ultimate bliss has 10 kinds of adornment. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. It is adorned with Dharmakara's vow, his cultivation cause. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Adorned with the power of Amitabha's 48 vows. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Adorned with Amitabha's name and the brilliance of his life force. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Adorned with bejeweled images observed by the 3 Mahasattvas. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Buddha, adorned with the peaceful bliss of Amitabha's Western world. Homage to Amitabha Buddha, adorned with bejeweled rivers running with pure and meritorious waters. Homage to Amitabha Buddha, adorned with bejeweled basilicas with halls of wish-fulfilling jewels. Homage to Amitabha Buddha, adorned with lengthy days and nights. Homage to Amitabha Buddha, adorned with the Pure Land's 24 kinds of pleasures. Homage to Amitabha Buddha, adorned with the 30 kinds of beneficial merit. Homage to Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, who is unparalleled in heaven or on earth. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. He is also unmatched throughout the worlds of the 10 directions. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. He has seen the annihilation of self in everything in the world. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. There is no one who is like Amitabha Buddha. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. He can keep track of thoughts as numerous as all the dust motes in the universe. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. He can quaff all the waters in the universe. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. He can control the wind that fills space. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. No one can completely describe that Buddha's merits. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha Buddha is omnipresent. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Keep your thoughts on him and never forget, as thoughts probe that place of no thought, the 6 sense gates will constantly emanate light of purple and gold. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha's face, like the full moon, is at the front of the hall of ultimate bliss. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. His jade excrescence and his gold form radiate through space. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. If a person call his name for only a moment, they will instantly consummate immeasurable merit. Homage to Amitabha Buddha. Along with all sentient beings, I vow together to enter the sea of Amitabha's great vows, and to ferry across sentient beings so that I and others may simultaneously complete the path to Buddhahood. The sublime mantra of the original mind of Amitabha Buddha. Tanyata Om Maritara Svaha. Tanyata Om Maritara Svaha. Tanyata Om Maritara Svaha 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 Tanyata Om Maritara Svaha.
At this time, I'd like to invite up our incense, those giving the incense offering. And on the inside of your chant book, you can find the incense offering chant. And together we say, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Good morning, everyone, and it's good to see you all. Few reminders at the start of service. Doesn't appear that there are any families with small children here today, but as always, anybody is welcome if you need a minute to head downstairs and use the facilities down there. If this is your first time at Temple, bathrooms are located just on the other side of that wall. There's also bathrooms downstairs. Water is usually found at that end of the temple. If you need something to drink, you can also head downstairs and grab water there. A reminder to just not walk across the front. Keep your traffic flow to the back of the room. Helps with our viewers online. And when we chant with some life in your voice, some life in your heart, and bring some mindfulness to these teachings that we are reciting. And with that, let's go ahead and stand up and silently greet one another. In your chant books on page 7, together we will chant the 3 refuges. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, contented with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And on the next page, you will find the Heart Sutra. From the deep practice of prajna, paramita, perceiving
consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering. No cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering. No knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all perverted views one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant fearless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisattva. Dhamma prajna paramita hridaya sutra.
And today we have joining us from afar, Venerable Shuji Mintzmyer, who will be giving the talk today. And I believe she can see you from this camera. Shuji, can you hear us?
I see quite a few people. I hear you. I see many happy faces. And I saw a thumbs up, so you can obviously hear me. So thanks a lot. Oh, good morning. I want to thank you all for being here in person and via Zoom. It looks like I have quite a few what Zoom calls people. I look at a zafu on a zabuton. So I see a lot of people sitting, and I see one very joyful face. Thank you, Deborah, for such a beautiful profile picture. You look very happy there. As always, it's nice to be here, and thank you, especially thank you for inviting me to speak with you. I start all my Zoom Dharma talks with a bit about the weather. We have been having rain, and I'm sure a few ball games are being ruined, and my water aerobics was canceled Friday, but no one here is complaining about the rain. It's been so dry here, and everything is lush and beautiful, which isn't typical for Kansas in June. Yesterday it did get warm up into the 80s, but it has been nice. It's been wonderful. Thank you, rain spirits, for showing your face to Kansas. It does mean I have to spend a lot of time weeding my garden, but I will take weeds any day. Somebody requested I do a talk about lesbian and Buddhism. And I know of 2 or 3 really good authors. But I just decided not to talk about lesbianism today. And partially I started my research and doing a roundabout way of saying why I didn't talk about this. In the early 90s, there was a great movie, Vin Vendors, and if Vin Vendors, you know, it's non-linear, Until the End of the World. It's listed as a sci-fi movie, but it was really an art film. But it also had an amazing soundtrack. Somebody took my first CD and I went out and purchased it again. And I have never purchased the same thing twice. If somebody took it, I thought, oh, well, it's gone. But that was also where I was first introduced to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And a lot of other, Lou Reed was in the movie. But anyway, the title song is sung by U2, and it's called Until the End of the World. At the time I had a tailor shop, and we were listening to it once, and the title song came on. And when this phrase came up, my employee laughed and said, "That's so you." And the verse was, "We ate the food, we drank the wine, everybody was having a good time, excepting you. You were thinking about the end of the world." And it's like, I remember that very firmly because I thought, wow, that is me. Everybody's having a good time, drinking food, having wine. Me, I'm sitting over there in the corner thinking about the end of the world. And another one of my favorite singers, Farron, has a line in one of her songs that, "On a sunny day, I go looking for rain." And it's like, whew. That is also really me, a me I don't like to see and I don't like to admit is me. And sometimes I listen to what I say and it's just like, good God, girl, just shut up. Like, boy, nobody wants to hear that. So sometimes, well, I'll say I grew up German Lutheran, and that is not the cheerful wing of Lutheranism, and Lutheranism is not the cheerful wing of Christianity. An old customer of mine said, God gave mankind a cake. And he said, the Catholics put a lot of extra frosting on it, and the Lutherans took everything good out of it. All the sugar and eggs, and it was just flat bread. And he was Greek Orthodox. So he said, and the Greek Orthodox kept the original recipe. And it's like, I don't know much about Catholics and Greek Orthodox, but yeah, Lutherans definitely took the sugar and frosting off their cake. So it's almost like I grew up thinking, if it's frosting, it's bad. And when I got into Buddhism, I got into Japanese Zen Buddhism. And I'll say that's a Lutheranism of Buddhists. You look at Tibetan Buddhists and they have the beautiful hats and the saffron and robes, and Zen Buddhist is black and brown. And, you know, we don't have, when I walked into your temple the first time and saw the red lanterns on the top, and at the time they had the red banners for everybody who took Jukai, who took the precepts. And I turned to the Hung Su and I said, well, Zen would never have all this decoration in here. And it's like, okay, so I found the austere, joyless Buddhists. And if you look at any pictures of my ancestors, they're all firm. And we had our monastery I used to go to, young Japanese monks would come, and every time they'd laugh, they'd quickly hide their face. You know, we can't be seen laughing. So I want to talk about the joy of practice. And the last 2 years or so, I've been talking about the Lotus Sutra. The Des Moines Zen Center, I gave a little over 2 years of Dharma talks on the Lotus Sutra. And I love the Lotus Sutra. But looking at it, it's like there's not a lot of joy. There's a lot of talk about no self, and you can kind of, there's an implicit joy of no self. But no self could be lighthearted, but that's not the joy I'm looking at. In my Zen library, I have piles of papers of stuff before I had my hard drive that I'd print off. There's no joy in that paper. In all my Dharma talks on my hard drive, there's no Dharma talks of joy. And I think the only time I ever spoke of joy was when it was an antidote for jealousy. So where do I start? I don't even know where to start with that. Currently, I'm reading a book of writings from my first teacher, Nonan. And I do not remember him as a joyful person. I speak about him a lot, and he treated every person walking through the door of the temple as a 17-year-old monk in Japan. In fact, if you came 3 till 9, the service started at 9, you were not allowed to come in because you had to be there at 5 till. And if you couldn't be late, you couldn't come to the Zendo. But reading through his writing, I'm seeing some of his joy. And one of the things I was reading this week, he was talking about how awful going to the Japanese monastery was. And he talked a lot about how horrible it was in Japanese monastery. One of the stories he told a lot was they had to carry the night soil out of the outhouses and go dump it once a week. And he was walking down with a yoke carrying 2 piles of night soil, and that's what you leave in the outhouse. And he slipped and fell. He fell down, the 2 things fell down, and there he was covered with, I'll keep it clean, night soil. And just how mad he got and how awful, and just sat there and cried in amongst the 2 piles of, yeah. I thought, oh yeah, I've done that plenty of times. Slip and fall and just sit there and cry in my excrement. Metaphorically, I've never had to do that in person. But in his writing, he was talking about going into his teacher's quarters, and his teacher was watching American wrestling, professional wrestling. And his teacher was just talking Japanese. Nonan knew a few phrases, so he couldn't follow the conversation. His teacher was just like, oh, look at that, and handed Nonan a beer. And they sat there all night drinking a beer, watching professional wrestling on TV in Japan. It's like, that's joy. Couldn't understand a word what his teacher was saying, but knew they were having fun. And he also, every morning, Nona was let his dog out to get the paper. Get the paper, Sammy, and Sammy would run and get the paper. Sometimes Sammy would see a squirrel and Nona would have to say, paper, Sammy, paper. And I spent many mornings with Nona and having breakfast. And that get the paper, Sammy, was always a way of let's start the day. A moment of joy. One more Nona story. We're Hatsu Shishin, a 7-day Shishin. It's in December, it's always cold. By 7th day, everybody's crabby. We haven't had any, we can't talk, we can't read. By day 7, we're crabby. And at lunch on day 7, which is our last meal, because we go home before supper, or else we go out for supper, we had a 4th bowl. There's 3 bowls of oryoki. And the 4th bowl, Nona looked at the tenzo, the head cook, like, what's this? And it was a piece of pumpkin pie. And we all go, oh, pie for dessert, that's so nice. And then the tenzo pulled out of his pocket a can of whipped cream. We never have whipped cream for oryoki. So Nona took the whipped cream, put a nice polite daub on it. And then he looked around and smiled and just put as much whipped cream as he could possibly put on his pumpkin pie. And we all laughed. And it was like after 7 days of 13 hours of sitting, formal meals, all 3 meals, no talking, that whipped cream on the pumpkin pie, I still remember it as one of the nicest times of sitting there. And it was pure joy. And who would think that whipped cream could bring so much joy? And it's like, yes, even Nonan had moments of real joy in practice. And I'm thinking of other teachers. Shokin, the abbot of Ramonji, northeast Iowa. A few of you came to Ramonji with me a couple times. But friends of his, not friends of the monastery, guy who fixed all of his cars and tractors, got married. He wanted to have his wedding in the Buddhist monastery. And the groom got a brand new pair of cowboy boots and the bride got a brand new pair of heels, and Shokin let him wear it into the Buddha hall. So we had the service, and I thought, ooh, shoes in the Buddha hall, we could never do that. But it was really nice. And Shokin let us know that they were new shoes, brand new shoes, first time they were worn, so it was okay to wear them in the Buddha hall. And then afterwards, for their processional hymn where they went out, they put on the boombox, and Celebration came on. Kool and the Gang, Celebration. Oh yeah. Young people probably don't know that song, but anybody my age knows it. And Shokin, who was my age, a little older than I, in his full robes and his whisk and his noi, his wedding, his formal ceremony stuff, hiked up his robes and danced down the aisle. And all the bride and groom's family started clapping, and we all started clapping and singing Celebration. My many years of being at Ramonji, and I had a lot of good times at Ramonji, that is one of my favorite memories. Very unlike Shokin. He was a very Japanese trained monk. We don't smile, we don't laugh. But he was able to dance down the Buddha hall, allow cowboy boots to walk on his Buddha hall floor. And it's like, yeah, there is joy. But at the time, I felt that was wrong. Channeling Nonan. You shouldn't be dancing in the Buddha hall. You can't wear cowboy boots in the Buddha hall. That's wrong. Why couldn't, I was kind of clapping, but it was more like a gas show going back and forth. because you just don't clap in the Buddha hall. And I look back, why couldn't I enjoy that at the time? Why was I channeling you two? Everybody's having a good time excepting me with my sour Zen face on, thinking about, I have to be a good Buddhist. We can't laugh. We can't smile. Back when I did a more earth-based religion, spiritual practice, we did a lot of joyful practice, a lot of dancing naked under the moonlight and jumping over bonfires and that kind of stuff. And we talked about joy and we did joyful things. But I don't remember feeling pure joy there. Not the whipped cream joy, not the dancing, picking up your robes and dancing joy. I'm just blathering about my life here. Another song from my childhood comes up. When I was in second grade or so, there was a woman, we walked to school, I was 3 blocks from school, there was a woman on my way home from school who had invited kids to come to her house after school. And she had cookies and stuff. And we'd sang religious songs. Not anything like we sang in our Lutheran church. But there was one song that I really liked. Oh, and they all had hand signs and she had signs and stuff to stand up. They were very active songs. And one was, I had the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I have the joy, 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 joy. Well, Mom made me quit going because it wasn't Lutheran. I'm trying to sing that song to me now. 60 years later, I'll say 63 years later, to be honest, I find I need to sing that song to me. I sing it when I walk the dogs, and sometimes I lay in bed and I just, feeling of clean sheets. Oh man, how lucky we are to have nice, clean cotton sheets. And I'll just sing, I have the joy, joy. The second verse was, I have the peace that passes understanding. I have the peace that passes under, as a 7-year-old, I had no idea what that meant. It was just a catchy tune. Now, that's almost my Zazen song, I have the peace that passes understanding down in my heart. And it's like, whew. I wish I could thank that funny lady with the cookies and Christians, religious songs, of how much that meant to me, that many years later, I find that silly little kid's song so important. One of my favorite Buddhist books, one of my favorite current Buddhist books, it's hardly current anymore, it's 10 or 15 years old, is Living by Vow by Shahaka Akamori. And if you've ever come to me as a teacher, I'll say, read Living by Vow. I've had the pleasure of knowing him during my Shuso ceremony. That's the last ceremony you have before you become a transmitted priest. He was able to give a Dharma talk, wonderful Dharma talk, which I won't go into now. But he was also a person of great joy. Everything about him was just joyful. So I'm looking through his book, thinking, now he had, if anybody talks about joy in Buddhism, it has to be him. First chapter he wrote about was the four Bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. You have a slightly different translation, but you also chant the 4 Bodhisattva vows. That should be joyful. And in that chapter, what does Shahako Akamori talk about? The joyful mind. You have to be in the joyful mind to chant the Bodhisattva vows. He quotes a line from the Bodhisattva Necklace Sutra. I do not remember ever hearing about the Bodhisattva Necklace Sutra. It could be another chapter, but that's not important. But he quotes a Dogen quote. And if you Google Dogen and images, every picture will be a very stern. Dogen is never known for being a joyful writer. Yeah, I'll just say nobody would think of Dogen and, oh yeah, he's a happy, joyful person. He wrote a lot of amazing texts. Dig into Dogen if you want to make your brain hurt, but I like Dogen. So, but you always know it's Dogen if you see that beautiful scowl on him. And he also had hair sticking out all over. In Finding Joy, the Joyful Mind, the Dogen quote that Shohaku quoted was, I am fortunate to be born a human to be able to prepare food for the three treasures. That's Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I would not think of that as a joyful comment. But it's like, wow, what if you did look at preparing food for the Sangha as joyful? And then Akamura went into discuss the concept of cessation of dukkha, and that's where joy comes from. Hit me like a what happens if the whole concept of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, oh man, what's that second noble truth or third noble truth? There's a cessation of suffering. What happens if the end of dukkha, and my favorite translation of dukkha is wobbly wheel on a cart. That's not that bad. That's just an annoyance. So I'm gonna, instead of suffering, I like to use annoyance. What happens if study of Buddhism brings a cessation of annoyance? So I'm not annoyed anymore. Whew. That's pretty surprising. The very first thing the Buddha spoke about is joy. Why did I not see that? For 30 years. That's why we call it practice. It took me over 30 years to realize the very first thing Buddha talked about was joy, not being annoyed. Boy, I'd love to not be annoyed. So I had a little awakening moment this week while writing this Dharma talk. And Dogen said, we're never fully awakened. We just have awakened moments. I don't think he was the first person to say that. But wow, what if happiness is just following the Eightfold Path? I feel like I'm talking too long, but that's okay. I'm very interested. I used to be a statistician before I was a Buddhist priest. Very interested in happiness studies because what I loved in statistics was measurement error. We cannot give a good answer when somebody says, are you happy or not? On a 5-point scale, how happy you are. It's sunny, I'm happy. We just as humans can't answer that. So the Harvards, I've talked about this a lot. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. The Harvard in the 30s started a happiness study. And it was mostly Harvard students and Irish immigrants to start. And JFK was one of the original participants, or one of the first participants. And what they found, the first finding they found was money doesn't make you happy. What made people happy was connection. A spouse, kids, family, a community. The Irish immigrants that were poor, that would go down and dance with their community every week, were a lot more happier, yeah, than the CEOs of big company. And now we look back and it's like, well, of course. In the past few years, researchers finally did put, there is a level of wealth that you do have to be happy. If you can't afford, the Maslow's food, housing, clothing, it's kind of hard to be happy when you see your kids hungry every night. So now they did put a level of, okay, any money after this doesn't really make you happier. And that is exactly what the Buddha was talking about when he talks about Sangha. When Ananda said, Buddha, I think the Sangha is half of our practice. Buddha said, no, Ananda, it's 100% of your practice. So we sit, we chant sutras, we follow the Eightfold Path, and we think that's what we're going to do to end suffering, to get rid of that wobbly will in our life. Nope. It's what you're going to do after I'm done talking. You're going to go downstairs, have a cup of tea, and talk. That's Buddha practice. That's Buddhist. That is following the Eightfold Path. That is getting rid of that wobbly will. That's taking the wrench and my will doesn't wobble anymore. Okay, let's go on with my day. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so aware of that tea downstairs is the true Buddhist path is now in Manhattan. I don't have a physical Sangha. Could break out into Sangha again, but you don't know what you have till it's gone. So there's a time for deep ritual. There's a time for deep sitting. There's a time for study. There's a time to look at that mirror, inward reflection. And what am I doing with my practice? And there's also a time for singing and dancing and squirting that whipped cream all over your pumpkin pie and laughing. And like all Buddhism, it's a balance. Wisdom, compassion, your perfect gasho. And that's where the practice is. Find that balance. So that's all I have to say. Find your joy. I'm going to ask if there's any questions or comments.
We got a question on the floor and we're bringing a mic over.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Nikki. What you said reminded me of something that my significant other said the other day. We were talking a lot about gratitude and stuff like that, and just some of the struggles that we've been going through lately, just financially and having trouble affording some basic stuff. And he said, you know, sometimes I just have to count blessings like plugging holes in a sinking ship. I thought that is one of the most profound things I feel like I've heard him say. It's just, there's so much truth to it. And, you know, it's all about balance, like you said. And it just reminded me of that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Craig. It's a pleasure to listen to you. I really enjoy listening to you speak. And earlier you said you were blathering, and like, no, not at all. Like this, there's so much value in just your humanness. Like there's so much spirituality. We talk about these deep things, and I enjoy that. But like, I really enjoy just like you putting your humanness out there. And like just talking about that, like that brings joy to my heart. Just, it's beautiful and simple, but like you're just being human. And it brings a lot more value than I used to recognize, and I'm beginning to recognize that. So I'm really grateful. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. I will say, after my old teacher Nonan always said, I don't say anything worth repeating, so he would refuse to let anybody record his Dharma talks. And he said, I'll never write a book. So as soon as he died, two of his students started writing a book. And it's like, yeah, he had to wait till Nonan died to put his book out. And now I'm finding a lot of joy reading stuff that he wrote way back in the 80s. It starts from in the 80s on to when he quit teaching. So, thank you for listening to my blah blah and enjoying it.
Thank you, Venerable Shuji, for being here and sharing the Dharma with our community. Just so grateful that you're able to continue to be here with us, even though it may not be physically. And we're just really grateful for the wisdom that you share.
You're welcome. You're deeply welcome.
And with that, we'll take a very short meditation period. So in doing so, let's use this as an opportunity to center the mind and reflect on some of the joys that occur in your life. We bow. And we're now going to move into our joys and concerns. This is an opportunity for you to share all the things that are happening in your life that you'd like to make your Sangha aware of, or if you just need a little bit of support. I know if you're wiping away tears, I am too. Just trying to hide it better. It's just something in my eye, I swear. So if there was something striking that came up in that short meditation for you that was something you feel like you could hold in your heart for the rest of the day, or maybe share with somebody else, now's the time to do it.
Hello. One of the joys that I found while I was doing the short meditation earlier was thinking about all my past friendships I've had with people throughout my life. It's funny. We tend to look at the more negative things, such as the arguments we've had with the people or the fights we get into. But if we think very hard on it and try to have a more objective mind, we also remember the more positive experiences, such as the laughs and the joys of celebrations we shared with those moments. So it's important not to forget those moments that you've had with those people in your past friendships, despite how it may have ultimately ended. So.
I will share a joy. I have been using, after learning the meditation practice of purification as taught in the Tibetan lineage, I've been using it to encourage my students and to help train them to reach towards their goals. They're dancers, they're Irish dancers, and we had 8 weeks to prepare for a competition that took place yesterday, both Friday and Saturday. And so I was in Detroit yesterday supporting them. And it was really beautiful to see how, when applied, this kind of mindfulness practice can really transform the way that you see your future. And about 99% of them achieved the goals that they had set for themselves 2 months ago. And it was really beautiful to see just how something as simple as changing your mind and how you view your world can transform your future. So a lot of them won top 3, so they achieved their goals, to say the least.
Hi, it's Greg again. I have probably 2 joys I could share. I could share a lot. I seem to experience joy all the time, and I'm really enjoying the process of joy. Yesterday, though, Sam and I went on a bike ride to Millennium Park, and very little words were spoken. We chatted a little bit here and there, but it was like a 3-hour bike ride, like 2.5 hours, and it was just so beautiful. Just like we talked about this, just the presence of just 2 people being on a bike in nature. Like, I'm a recovering drug addict, and like, wow, I've been missing so much, and it was just so beautiful just to be a part of that thing and just be like, are you experiencing this too? Yeah. And like, I remember this one point, there's a kid riding by, or a guy on a bike, and there's just complete nonverbal communication. I smile at him, he smiles at me, and I can see the joy, and I can recognize his joy, and he recognized, it was just so beautiful. And then the other thing is this, like, I'm at this place where I'm just like falling in love with being human. Like, I'm experiencing discomfort or frustration. Like, this is taking place within me instead of resisting it. Like, this is amazing. That's just this thing that's in me, and I've been fighting it all the time. And it creates this huge space. And it's just like, whoa, man. Like, I've been missing so much. And I'm just falling in love with being human. And like, it's so much joy in that thing. Like, it's just that. And it's amazing. I don't know. I get so excited. I just want to share it. You know what I mean? That's all I have.
Hi, I'm Josie. So I would just want to express a concern. Just in the world right now, there's a lot of horrible violence, and oppression. And I just want to highlight what's going on in Palestine and hope that people there can find joy in their horrific situation, even if it's impossible. I've been getting involved with the movement for peace and for liberation for the Palestinian people, and I've found joy in being able to do something in the face of such horrors. And the local club, Palestine Solidarity GR, is looking for interfaith coalition to call for peace and liberation and the end to genocide. And I just want to express that maybe this congregation would be interested in joining. So thank you.
Hello, I am Sasha. I just want to share the most recent cause I've had to be joyful in my life. If you're talking about community and connection, I find that, well, happy Pride Month, family is where you find it. And I have had the opportunity this past week and going forward to share my home with people, with my husband, with my other loved ones. And this is not something I take for granted. And it's just, I never thought I'd be able to get here and be here. So I'm just glad I have people in my life. That's all.
Do we have any joys or concerns online?
So I have a joy today. I just wanted to thank Tongjin Su and Ege Su for your help this morning. It was greatly appreciated.
And now let us take a moment and hold space for the joys and concerns. This is a good time. In the Tibetan tradition, we often recommend dedicating all of this goodness to the world and using it as a motivation to practice being the person that the people that you want to see in the world, transforming it from within. So take this opportunity to think about how you can take all of what you've considered today and bring it out into the world to make it a better place. Before we get into the announcements, I too also want to just say a thank you to Tongjin Su, Caleb, who's visiting from out of town. Used to be a Dharma teacher here, and I guess you still are technically, I don't know. But the beautiful rendition that we haven't heard in quite some time of the bell chant, that was really, really lovely. And I'm not sure if that was on your plans today, but somewhere it was decided that you were going to be the angel that came in and gave the bell chant, which I thought was really great. I also want to say thank you, John, for just kind of coming in and making it work. I think there was just a lapse in communication for who is going to be doing service today, and we all kind of came together in a silent way to roll it out. And I'm not sure who else was here this morning to help, but if you were here, that's the demonstration of what Shuji talked about this morning in terms of Sangha coming together to make this happen, even if it is in silence or with unexpected intentions. So just really, really grateful for this and being able to have Shuji and everything else come together today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. June announcements. We have our online meditation group on Wednesdays from 7 to 7:45. I believe Shinkyu is going to be taking over that for the summer, but you can always contact Kunga or anybody else in the Dharma Council to get information about that. There's an Avatamsaka Sutra study group on Thursday, June 13th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the temple. You can email Will Allington or Reverend Jueshin Su, Shane, or anybody else again at the temple. We can always get the information to the right people so you can get there and study with us. The book club, I believe, is off for the summer and we'll start back up again in the fall. The Grand Rapids Temple board meeting takes place on Sunday, June 22nd, after temple, 11:30 to 1 p.m. Sangha members are invited to join and observe. We highly encourage those who feel like maybe if they just want to sit in and see what our board does, would like to volunteer, would like to just kind of see what we do here, we'd love to have you be a part of that. We have a summer silent retreat scheduled for Saturday, July 27th. That's an in-temple retreat, and it will take place from 9 to 4 p.m. It's at temple. It's all day. There's usually a potluck, and registration is open, and I believe it ends on, not I believe, it's written right here. Registration ends on Friday, July 26th. Lastly, we have our Buddhist Space recovery meetings on Mondays. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Mondays, 6:30 p.m. meditation, 7 p.m. meeting at the temple. Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. at the Alano Club. And Fridays, 10:05 meditation begins, 10:30 a.m. meditation, and that is at Garfield Park. Bring a lawn chair to sit on or something comfortable to sit on. Are there any other announcements today?
Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I'd like to talk about Dana today. Dana is generosity, which is central to our Buddhist practice, and our teachers are generous with their time, our volunteers are generous with energy and time to keep the temple up and running, and everything that we do here is based on donation and volunteerism. If you would like to donate financially, we have a couple ways to do that. There are Dana boxes at each end of the temple where you can leave cash or a check. There's also a QR code that will take you to PayPal. On the website, zengr.org, there's a link to PayPal. And for those on YouTube, below the YouTube video, there should be a link that will take you to PayPal as well. And if you're interested in volunteer opportunities or giving of material goods, you can see any of our teachers in gray and they can give you more information. So thank you for your generosity.
And we'd like your help during the Dharma hall. We leave the chairs up, but if you could help by putting the mats and cushions in the closet back there, would be very helpful. And somebody probably will be helping both of us. Also, there's only 3 of us cleaning the temple. This Tuesday, 2 of our people won't be there. Is that right, Mike? Okay. And so if you can help out, we'd appreciate it. We start at 10. I know it doesn't work for a lot of people, but you can be here.
All right. That's a great way to serve the temple, by the way, if you're available to. We'd love to have you here, and I know the cleaning crew would greatly appreciate it. Last few reminders. We already got one covered. Take your cushions, if you can, over to this closet here. We're going to store them there so they can clean. The chant books, there's usually somebody that will come around and collect them, or just take it upon yourself. That's what I used to do. It's just like, I'm going to start picking up books. And they go right over there underneath the side table there. And lastly, don't forget to hang out for a little bit, have some tea, and enjoy a connection with your Sangha. We'd love to kind of chat and see what's up. All right, let's get up. Let's do some chanting, do some gathas. And together we say, for all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. Great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. Thank you, everyone.